Namaskaraha and welcome to our next discussion on yogic life. So today's topic is the importance of sadhana, right? So nayam atma pravachanena labhyah na medaya na bahuna shrutena. So this Paramatma, he cannot be obtained by only pravachans, just listening to the pravachans, or by intellect or hearing a lot of things. You cannot attain that Paramapurusha. How do you attain that Paramapurusha? Is by doing sadhana. This Parama Tattva, this Parama Purusha, he is not obtainable by pravachans, by just listening to pravachans. So that is why we say this Yoga Nishta Jivanam is 99% practice and 1% theory. So that 1% theory is also for the purpose of application. So from this yogic life class, if you don't do anything that we have talked about and only be listening to the philosophy, thinking that it is beautiful, I like it, right? That itself is not going to help you. So you have to apply it in your life. Without practical application, it's just useless theory. Okay, useless in the sense it doesn't have value. It has more value when you start applying it, right? So in this world, there are a lot of people who just think that just reading books, getting a lot of jnana will give them atma moksha, right? They don't do sadhana, they don't do the satkarma, they don't do janaseva, they don't do all of that. They think that just by gaining knowledge they can attain that Paramatma, right? So if you just go and listen to this upanyasa, or somebody is giving a pravachan, it feels nice, I will listen to it, I'll sit there for 1 hour, I listen to it, feels good, and then come back home and you're still doing the same things that you were doing before, then what is the use of that pravachan? What is the use of that upanyasa, right? So theory, by theory nothing will happen, right? We attain only by practice. So in our classes we talk about the practical aspects, and we also talk about the theoretical aspects. But the reason we talk about theoretical aspects is that to activate that bhakti bhava for that Parama Purusha. When you activate that bhakti bhava for Parama Purusha, then you will have that interest to start practicing. That is why we talked about practical aspects a lot in the beginning, and also several times in between during the sessions, to remind the students that Yoga Nishta Jivanam is all about practice and not just theory. But by theory nothing is going to happen. And also in between we talk about a particular topic, and the reason we talk about the particular topic is to remind us of Parama Purusha, remind us of the goal, so that if you have not started your practice, you can start your practice. It's not too late, you can start the practice before it is too late, right? So if you postpone the good thing for tomorrow, that tomorrow may not come, right? So we don't know how long we will be living on this earth, right? So tomorrow could be the last day. Like suddenly one person, I heard that suddenly one person woke up in the morning at 9 o'clock. He completely stopped speaking. His hands and legs stopped moving, right? His whole world came to a complete halt, right? So things like that happen. So if we are thinking that I have a tomorrow, right, we don't know whether we will have it tomorrow or not. We don't know whether we'll have the next minute or not. So many times in our life we were just walking on the road and suddenly we fell and hit on the stone and ended up in the hospital. Things like that happen, right? So practical aspect is very, very important. So we've talked about the practical aspects time and again, right? I want to remind you all to go back and rethink on the practical aspects and say, well, how much am I doing? I'm only doing this much. How can I improve, right? And if you saying, okay, no, I have my tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, The thing is that tomorrow may never come, right? So that is why it is said that na ayam atma pravachanena labhyah, right? Ayam atma pravachanena labhyah nasti. That is why it is important to do sadhana. So if we haven't learned sadhana, we have to learn it from a proper preceptor, right? We saw in the intuitional practice that we have to learn it from a guru, a sadguru, right? So that guru will manifest before us in a particular form, in any form, and teach us sadhana. So that is why it is important for all of you to come to the shivir, learn sadhana, right? You cannot learn sadhana just by watching an internet or YouTube, right? You have to sit in front of the guru and learn it from him, right? So just listening to the pravachans or by having superior intellect, that itself will not connect you with Paramapurusha. So from the books we can read many good things. With that there is no use. So we need to apply it in our vyaktigat jivan, in our individual lives, right? We need to do sadhana. So na medaya. So they may think, people who have intellect, they may think that, oh, I will know about Paramapurusha, I will do this, I will do that, I'll read this, I will read that, I'll think and analyze and do this and that and all that. By meda, by intellect, I can attain that Paramapurusha. That means they are mistaken. They are Brahmit. They are mistaken. Right? By intellect, we cannot attain Paramapurusha. Paramapurusha is beyond intellect. By intellect, we cannot attain Purusha, Paramapurusha. And in human beings, we can see that we have differences in the intellect. Right? So there are different levels of intellect. There is a difference in the intellect of one person to another, from A to B. Right? In our little brain, how much intellect can we have? Right? So if we have that ahankara, that I know a lot, right? If you have that ahankara that I know a lot, I have this and this degree, I have a long string of degrees, and you want to show those degrees to the world and say I am great, right? And you're all coming to me to learn from me, right? If you're doing that pradarshan of ahankara, then you will not attain anything in this world. So for an ordinary person, by doing sadhana, he can attain Paramapurusha. Doing sadhana and attaining Paramapurusha, that itself is a difficult thing. It needs abhyasa. If you're ahankari and you think you're very great, you're mahan, then it is almost impossible. It's impossible to attain that Paramapurusha with that ahankara. Na medaya na bahuna shutena. So by reading a lot, or giving a lot of bhashan, or listening to a lot of bhashan, we cannot attain that Paramapurusha. So what do we need to do? We need to do sadhana. In order to do sadhana, what is required? You need to have a proper mind. In order to have a proper mind, what you need to have? You need to have a proper body. In order to have a proper body, you need to eat shuddha ahara, sattvic ahara. It include a lot of, whole food and plant-based diet, fruits and vegetables, right? So if we look back, the rishis of the earlier days, they used to eat kandamula, the roots and fruits and vegetables. That is what their ahara was, right? They did not do this cooking and cooking food and steaming food and this and that. They did not do all that. They used to, wherever they used to live, they survived on what was available from nature. Directly took it from nature and put it in their body, and they survived for a very long time. They were able to focus on sadhana. Today's world, we are living on processed food, right? We are living on artificial food. We are living on refined oil. We are living on dairy products, right? With that, what happens? The body gets weakness, right? The body gets all sorts of diseases. It's getting roga. Because of that roga, the mind is completely deteriorated. The mind cannot elevate in such a circumstance. In such a situation, when your body is diseased, there is no way you can sit down and do sadhana. forget about doing sadhana. You can't even think of Parama Purusha for a second, because your body is in pain and you're constantly thinking about eating this and that, right? So it is only going to worsen your situation. Because your mind has fallen by eating wrong foods, your body is now diseased, and in this situation you're only trying to find for temporary relief, right? Temporary entertainment, so that your mind can be removed from the disease, right? Again your mind is going in the wrong direction, and again you're only increasing your disease, right? So therefore it is very important to be steadfast in what food you eat. You should be extremely disciplined, right? Because these are all chain reaction, right? If you say, okay, I have bhakti, I like Parama Purusha, I like to think about Parama Purusha, but I'm not going to focus on food, I'm not going to focus on my mind and all of that, then we are completely mistaken, right? Without addressing the physical aspect, you cannot address the mental aspect, and if you cannot address the mental aspect, then you cannot address the spiritual aspect. So they are all chained, they are all linked. So you can't look one in isolation. All of them are linked. You have to have a holistic view, right? One doesn't exist without the other. So all of these are very, very important. So we are actually teaching a very systematic way of how to move from one level to another level, right? And it works. It works. That is the beauty, right? It is not that we are saying some theoretical thing and it is not working, right? If one sincerely applies all this that has been taught here, right, you will yourself experience that it works, right? Sincerely, 1 year if you try, you will know that it works. So what we are saying over here is that sadhana is very important, right? So if there is Parama Purusha's kripa on you, he himself will appear before you, right? If there is Parama Purusha's kripa, he himself will appear before you, right? So if we say that Parama Purusha appears only before certain people and not before others, right, then people may say that, oh, he's not helping me, he's only helping them, right? That means we're saying that Parama Purusha is partial, right? He's not appearing before me, he's appearing before somebody else. He needs to appear before everybody, right? If he is he's the same to everybody, he's samana to everybody, then Parama Purusha needs to appear before everybody. So Parama Purusha is appearing before everybody, right? The matter of the fact is Parama Purusha is there everywhere. He is there in every object. This whole universe is made of Parama Purusha. So how can we say that Parama Purusha is not appearing before us? He is appearing before us. The only thing we are not seeing. We have closed our eyes, right? We have closed our inner eyes. So in order to understand that Parama Purusha, we need to have that appropriate buddhi. Right? We need to have that buddhi. Whether we have intellect or not, we need to have that buddhi. Right? An intellectual pandita who reads a lot, right, who has learnt a lot, who's read a lot of books, if you ask him to plow the land, right, he will not do it, because he has absolutely no interest. He has no interest in learning that, because he thinks he's very superior, he's learnt a lot, right? But if you look at a farmer who's not read a lot, he's illiterate, right, but he knows a lot about farming, and he sincerely does it, right? So in order to attain that Paramatma, sadhana is required. Just like in the field of farming, a farmer does the sadhana of farming, right? He learns a lot about farming and he does the farming, right? He understands how to do farming and he does it, right? In the same manner, we need to know how to attain Paramatma, and we need to follow, we need to practice it, we need to do the abhyasa, we need to do sadhana. So then if your sadhana is happening properly, right, then we can say that you have the kripa of Parama Purusha, right? How does the sadhana need to happen, right? So how should the sadhana be, right? To understand that the kripa is there of Parama Purusha, they understand the kripa of Parama Purusha by the sadhana. How should the sadhana be? Ananya mamata Vishnur mamata prema sangata. right? What does that mean? I don't have attraction towards the other objects of the world, right? I withdraw the attraction from the objects of the world, and I direct my bhavana to one thing, that is that Parama Purusha, right? I withdraw my interest and attraction towards the other objects of the world, and I direct my energy and attraction to that supreme entity. प्रणवः धनुः शरः हि आत्मा ब्रह्म तल्लक्ष्यम् उच्यते अप्रमत्तेन वेद्धव्यं शरवत्तन्मयो भवेत्, right? Pranavah dhanuh. So what is pranavah? The one meaning of pranavah is omkara, right? The actual meaning of pranavah over here means the ishta mantra that we repeat during sadhana, right? So with the ishta mantra we keep the lakshya of that parama purusha is the lakshya, the ishta mantra is the pranava, right? And that ishta mantra, which is the pranava, which is the dhanuh, is the bow. That ishta mantra is the bow, right? And what is that arrow? That arrow is yourself, your ahankara, yourself, right? That mind, that arrow is that mind, right? And you surrender that mind to that Brahma, which is the lakshya. So use the ishta mantra in sadhana, and that is the bow, and with that bow you surrender yourself, which is your atma, your jivatma, as the arrow. And what is the lakshyam, the target? The target is that Brahma, right? So we ourselves are the arrows, right? Apramattena vedavyam sharavat tanmayo bhavet. Pranavah dhanuh. Pranavah ishta mantra is the dhanuh, is the bow. Sharaha is the arrow. He atma, the jivatma, the self, that map and chota map, that is the small aham bhava, that is the arrow. And what is the target? Brahma talakshya muchyate. So when the human beings, leave the arrow, then there should be a lakshya. So we cannot just release the arrow anywhere, right? We have to release the arrow towards the lakshya. That lakshya is that parama purusha. We have to make ourselves, we have to surrender ourselves, we have to make ourselves that arrow. And who is going to leave that arrow? In that sadhana, the mind is the one who is doing sadhana, right? So what kind of mind leaves that arrow? What kind of mind surrenders that self, right? So what kind of mind can attain that parama purusha? Who is apramatta? Pramatta means, pramada means one who is bhramit, one who is deluded, right? One whose mind is ashuddha. Apramatta is one whose mind is pramada grasta, right? There are different vrittis, where the vrittis are going towards the shadripu and ashtapashas, kama, krodha, moha, lobha, mada, matsarya, lajja, grina, bhaya, and all of that, right? Where the mind has all of those malas, then you can't surrender yourself to Paramatma. So you need to get rid of those malas, right? So like, when is the mind pramada grasta, right? The mind should be apramatta, means you should not have any pramada. So when you have this lobha, the greed for something, you say, I want punya, I want punya. If you have the greed for punya, you don't have the desire for attaining parama purusha, but you have the greed for punya. So because of that, what happens is people run from pillar to post. They want to get punya. They go to Ganga, they go to here, they go there, Tirtha Sthala, this and that, right? They think that, by taking a dip here and taking a dip there, they're going to get punya. With that punya, they are going to attain parama purusha. It is not like that. If you have that greed for that punya, right, then your mind becomes pramada grasta, right? Because of that, you can get disease. right? So these are all different vrittis. Because of these vrittis, the mind becomes pramadagrasta. With the pramadagrasta mind, you cannot attain that paramapurusha, right? When you have the lobha, when you have the lobha, when you have the greed in your mind, there is no way you can attain paramapurusha. So only a person who doesn't have the pramada, right, who is not diverted towards all the objects of the world, who is not attracted towards the objects of the world, whose mind is pure, right, pavitra, his mind is shuddha, right? So he is apramatta, right? Only such an apramatta can surrender himself as an arrow, right, using his mind towards the lakshya of paramapurusha, right? By this you attain that brahma, right? By this only you can attain your brahma, not by boosting your ego, by self surrender. What is it you have to surrender? You have to surrender yourself, atma samarpan, right? So in this way, naturally paramapurusha's kripa will be obtained. So by that paramapurusha's kripa, you will obtain paramapurusha. So just by listening to pravachans, by intellect, or by listening to a lot of things, right, you cannot attain paramapurusha, right? If you're thinking that if you're just going to listen to some mantras, you're going to attain paramapurusha, no, it is not possible. So by all of these things, you cannot attain paramapurusha. By continuously reading this and that, only you get ahankara, right? So when you get ahankara, then you're going far away from paramapurusha. That is what happens. So what is it you need to attain that paramapurusha is that bhakti bhava, right? So that is why a sadhaka who doesn't have pramada, any of the doshas of the mind, who has deep bhakti for paramapurusha, he is the one who can attain paramatma. So for that you need sadhana, you need seva, you need to do the prachara of the yoganishta jivanam to others, you need to help others. So when you do all of this, what happens? Your mind becomes nirmala, right? By doing all of the sacrifice, when you're doing seva, it's essentially you're forgetting yourself. Why is it we are doing seva, right? When you're doing seva, why do we keep saying that atma mokshartam jagat hitaya cha? What is the importance of the seva, right? The importance of the seva is when you do seva, you forget yourself, you're thinking about somebody else. The time you're doing seva, you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about somebody else, right? To that extent, you have forgotten yourself, you have surrendered yourself. And the more and more and more and more you surrender yourself by janaseva, then what happens is your mind becomes nirmalam. Your mind becomes shuddham, right? There are no malas, there are nothing, right? So then bhakti awakens in your mind, right? So when the bhakti awakens in your mind, when you have this deep love for Paramatma, you cannot think about anything else other than Paramatma, then your progress in sadhana is very evident, right? It naturally progresses. All of this is natural progression, right? So you have to first, from the physical level, you have to do everything that you need to do at the physical level. Then at the mental level, you do janaseva, right? You do janaseva and dharma prachara, and then your mind becomes shuddha, nirmalam. Then bhakti awakens in your mind. In the shuddha mind, bhakti awakens. There is a deep attraction towards that supreme entity, right? Then you progress in sadhana, right? You progress in sadhana. So if your heart is very dry and you have ahankara, then nothing happens. There is no progress, right? That kind of a human life is waste, right? So you keep arguing and arguing with people about this and that, right? Saying that I am Mahan, I know everything, right? You don't know anything, I know everything, right? So then end of the day, when the Yamaraj comes, right, they see that end has come and Yamaraj has come, but they haven't achieved anything, right? With ahankara they haven't achieved anything. So how can we attain that paramapurusha is by being a sadhaka, by doing tivrataya sadhana, right? deeply attracted to Paramapurusha when we do sadhana, when we do seva, when we do Atma Samarpan, right? So when we make ourselves Suddham and Pavitra, then we do Yata Shakti, we do Dharma Prachara, right? Then with Paramatma's Kripa, we attain that Paramapurusha, right? They attain that Lakshya. By in sadhana, when you repeat that Ishta mantra, when you repeat the Ishta mantra using your mind, right? And then do the self-surrender to that Paramatma, who is the Lakshya, yourself is that arrow, then it goes and reaches the Lakshya. And in order to go and reach the Lakshya, in order to do that sadhana, to surrender yourself, you need to do Janaseva, you need to do Dharma Prachara, you need to do all of that. Right? You cannot just surrender yourself just like that. Right? You need Abhyasa for that also. How do you surrender yourself? So by practicing, by doing Janaseva every day, you are practicing how to do self-surrender. That's all you're doing. Right? Why is Seva so important is when you're doing Seva, you're doing self-surrender because you're not thinking about yourself to that much time. Right? That is what Atma Samarpan. Atma Samarpan. By that Atma Samarpan, what you get is your mind becomes Shuddha. When your mind becomes Shuddha, going towards that Paramatma is easier. Okay, so that is what I wanted to cover today. Let us actually go towards our Pravachan Yama and Niyama. Right? Can you see my screen?
I'm beginning.
You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
but Pravachan has not come as.
Oh, it's not come. It's coming, I think.
It's coming now only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we actually talked about Satya in the last class. We said Parahitartam Vang Manaso Yatartatvam Satyam. Right? Satyam means proper action of mind and right use of words with the spirit of welfare. Right? So there is no synonym for Satya in English. So the truth that we say is actually Rita. Right? Rita is a fact. So we, as sadhakas, we need to know the difference between Satya and Rita. As sadhakas, we have to follow the path of Satya, not the path of Rita. In most of the cases, the Satya and Rita are the same, but there are situations where Satya is different, right? The Satya is different. So Paramapurusha is Satchit Anandaha. Paramapurusha is Satya, right? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So the Lakshya of a sadhaka is to attain Paramapurusha, right? And he has to live in the society, he has to deal with the relativity, right? So it's not that we are going to run away to the Himalayas, we are going to live in the society, right? So we saw the example to understand the difference between Satya and Rita. We said that if if a ruffian is chasing a person and that person takes shelter in your house, right, and then ruffian comes to your house and knocks on your door and asks, have you seen that person? And if you're saying, if you want to say the Rita, you want to say the fact that yes, I've seen him, he's inside the house, then the ruffian is going to attack him and maybe he will kill him. Then you will be the cause of that person's death. In that situation, what should you do? Is you should not say the Rita, you should say Satya. Satya is having the welfare of somebody in mind, right? So the welfare of the person who is hiding in your house is by saying that he is not in your house. So in that case, you're saying the Satya and not the Rita. So Paramapurusha is Sarvajana Kalyanakari. Right? He has the welfare of everybody. He is not Pakshapati. He is not partial to anybody. Right? So he is Satya. So in order to attain that Paramapurusha, we have to follow Satya and not Rita. We have to keep the welfare of other persons in our mind. In most of the cases, Satya and Rita will be the same, almost the same. But in certain situations, there could arise this kind of difference between Satya and Rita. Right? Another example we saw is that your mother was, somebody's mother was taking food, and you received a letter saying that her father is not well and her father died. Right? So in that situation, your mother is asking, what what is the letter, right? In that case, if you tell her, the Rita, that you got the letter, you got the telegram that her father died, and she may, with a great shock, she may stop eating, and with that shock she may even pass away. You never know, right? So in that situation, you need to handle it carefully. You need to make sure that when she finishes her food, right, she's eating, and what the food is in her mouth and she chokes. Right? So it's important that we understand the situation, and then when she's finished her food and she's in a mental state, then slowly we have to explain to her what happened, right? Then she'll be more, she will be in a better position to understand the situation, right? So that is what we saw regarding Satya. Now we'll go to the third principle of Yama, Asteya. Paradravya अपहरणत्यागः परद्रव्यापहरणत्यागः अस्तेयः. Not to take possession of what belongs to others is asteya. So now we'll read that. Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to take the first one?
Bhagini. Paradravya aparanatyogo steyam. Not to take possession what
paradravya अपहरणत्यागः
अपहरणत्यागो steyam. Not to take possession what belongs to others is asteya. It means non-stealing. Stealing may be of 4 types. 1, physical theft of any material object.
Bhagini, first explain that first point.
Okay. That is paradravya. That is, you take possession of belonging to others, actually, is asteya. That is, it doesn't refer to stealing. It means non-stealing. That is what is said with that verse. And now stealing is of 4 types. It is explained below. Am I right?
Yeah, now take the first
one. Okay. Physical theft of any material object. Ordinarily, those persons who steal material objects are called thieves. But thieves are not only those persons who flee with stolen objects after committing armed robbery. Whatever is taken in possession by the use of brute physical force, of arms, or of strength or intellect, whether it is money or goods, amounts to theft, because behind such actions there is the intention of taking others people's property deceitfully. However, acceptance of anything like money, crops, gold, etc. in exchange for money in a proper way is not theft. Second one also I'll read. Psychic theft.
No, but finish this first. First one you finish.
Oh, first one. Okay. So, physical theft of any material object. Stealing is of 4 types. First type is physical theft of any material object. So, those people who steal are called thieves. But thieves are not only the persons who take away others' possession and fly and run away. That is, after committing armed robbery. Whatever is taken by means of physical force or by use of intellect or by use of weaponry, whether it is money, goods, amounts to theft. They are not defined as thieves, but it is amounting to theft only. Because behind such actions, they having the intention, it is an intention of those people who take away the force other people's property. It is called theft only. But anything accepted like goods or crops gold, etc., in exchange for money is not called theft in a proper way.
Yes, Bhagini, nicely said. So here the next principle is paradravya apaharana tyagah. Right? Paradravyasya apaharana means somebody else's possessions. Apaharanam is taking away, stealing. Stealing. Tadrisha tyagah means giving up that stealing. So essentially it means not stealing. Right? Not to take possession of things that belong to others. Right? So what we have to understand is that we have to respect the concept of ownership in the society. That ultimately we don't own anything in this world. Ultimately we have only the usufructory rights. That is, we can use things. Right? I bought a house, but at some time I'm going to leave this body and the house is going to remain here. So this is not my permanent possession. By paying for it, I got the right to use it. So it happens with all the objects. We go to a store, we purchase something. It is not going to remain with us all the time. Right? It's not going to remain always with us. But that doesn't mean that other people have the right to take those things. Right? We have to respect the concept of ownership in society. It may seem obvious, but it's gone against many times in the society. Right? So sometimes one example is that sometimes you can see that some relatives come to your house and then they just take away your things without telling you. Right? So that is actually wrong. That is against the principle of asteya. Right? So if something belongs to somebody, right, if somebody has paid for it, right, then they have a right to use that, and we cannot go and take it away without their knowledge. Right? If you ask them, if you ask their permission and say, okay, I want to use this, will you give it to me, then that is a different story. Right? Nor he was giving any money for it in exchange. Then that essentially amounts to theft. Right? So in particularly when we look at the business dealings, when people are doing business dealings, you go to the shop, you pay 100 rupees and you take something, right? But that is not stealing. But on the other hand, you go to the shop and you don't pay for it and you just take the product from there without anybody's knowledge and come home, that is stealing. Right? Your intent there is to take the possession of a thing that is not belonging to you. Right? So like this, there can be a lot of examples. This is essentially a physical theft. The first thing, the stealing is of both types, and the first theft is the physical theft of a material object. Right? So that is like going to the store and stealing something. That is a physical theft of a physical object. Right? People go to jail for these things if they get caught. Right? So we hear all of these tests all the time. Right? And so the thing over here is that your intention matters. You go there and your intention is to take the product that belongs to somebody without paying a price for it, right? Without their knowledge. Right? So that is deceitfully taking somebody else's property, right? And in return you're not giving anything. So that is what is called as a theft. Right? Okay, the second point, Shubhrajyoti Bhagini, psychic theft.
Yes, Bhagini. Physical theft, where you did not take material.
Second one.
Yes, Bhagini. Second theft. Physical theft, where you did not take material possession of anything.
Psychic theft. Second point. Here you do not take possession of anything but planned. Is that what you're reading?
Yes, here you did.
Okay, read.
Yes, second point I am reading.
Yeah.
Here you did not take material possession of anything, but you planned it in your mind. This is also called theft because you have mentally stolen. One, only the fear of law or adverse criticism prevented you from doing the action physically. This means that we want to steal, but we want to steal, but due to some like bad criticism and because of some fear, we are not doing it. But mentally we have done it, but not only doing physically. So that's also theft.
Yeah, nicely said, Bhagini. So this point is extremely important because it underlies everything in Yama and Niyama. This point applies to everything, not only to the point of asteya, right? Whatever the point we are dealing, whether it is ahimsa or satya or asteya, one has to eliminate the tendency of doing such an action against the principle in question, whether it is ahimsa, satya or asteya. Until one has eliminated the psychic tendency to do those things, one has a possibility of falling into doing the the wrong action, right? So how do you eliminate that tendency, right? Like from the beginning we have been seeing that simple morality versus spiritual morality, right? If somebody has a simple morality, they know that they cannot steal, right? And if they are offered 2 rupees bribe, they may not take it, but if they are offered 10 lakh rupees, then they may take it, right? That means they have the tendency to the wrong thing, right? How do we get rid of the tendency is by doing sadhana. Sadhana is the only way by which you can get rid of the tendency, right? By making your mind shuddham, right? So sometime back there was a huge blackout in New York City, right? And then at that time what happened was the whole city went dark. So because it was so dark, then people started breaking into stores and taking all sorts of things from there, right? A lot of people broke into the stores and stole so many things from the stores. There was a huge commotion in the city, and what it actually shows is that people had the psychic tendency to steal, right? When there is electricity, they don't do it because they are afraid of getting caught. But when they got the option, when they got the chance to do it, they did it physically, right? Up until then they were only thinking it mentally, but when they got the chance, they did it physically, right? So by the psychic theft, if you have the thought of stealing, then it might manifest someday, right? They had thought of it, but they had never had the courage to do it because they were afraid of getting caught. But when they got the opportunity, they did it, right? So this principle applies to all of the things that we have talked about, right? It is not just enough to do the right thing. One has to have the thought, the right thought as well, right? Because otherwise you cannot trust yourself that you are going to do the right thing when you get the opportunity to do the wrong thing, right? So in terms of when there is an opportunity to do the wrong thing, how strong are you? Are you giving into that opportunity and say it's okay, I'm going to do it? Or are you saying no, it's wrong to do it and I will not do it, right? So that mental tendency is very important. That is very important. So even though you're physically not stealing, in the world we see, most majority do not steal. But the question is, do we have a tendency to steal? Do we have the psychic tendencies to? I'm sure most of us will have that psychic tendency, right? Generally speaking, that is how the world is. So in order to remove that tendency to steal, right, one has to do sadhana, right? When somebody has the opportunity to do the wrong thing, even then when they do the right thing, because they do not have the tendency in their mind, the proclivity in their mind to do the wrong thing, that means they are established in the principle of whether it is ahimsa or satya or asteya or any of the other points we are going to read, right? This point of being psychically established in the point is incredibly important, because human beings are mind predominant beings, right? Whatever action we take is preceded by a mental thought, right? Only if there is a mental thought, and only then we take an action. We think about it and then we decide to do it, and then we do it. So if we don't think about doing the wrong action, we will never do the wrong action. We only take the wrong action because we have thought about it, right? So not engaging in psychic theft, right, is essentially very, very important, right? So it could be a child in the school, he liked a friend's pen, and then he liked this, but he never took it because he thought his friend might see him. But then one day his friend left it on his desk by mistake, and he went to lunch, and he went home that day, he left it there, and then the other boy took it because he thought he could get away with it, right? It happens in all the phases of life, right? It could be as small as a pen, or it could be much bigger than that, right? So we should not have the psychic tendency to do such things. This is an extremely important point over here, psychic theft. Okay, the third item, Pushpalata Bhagini.
Depriving others of their due physically. Even if you do not take possession of what belongs to others, but you deprive others of what is their due, you become responsible for their loss. This is also stealing. So, depriving others physically is also stealing, wherein you do not take their the possession of their things, but what is due to them, we deprive others of their due. That is also, and we become responsible for their loss, and that is also a way of stealing. Bhagini?
Yeah, nicely said, Bhagini. So this is also a very important point, right? So there are 4 points in Asteya. The first one is physical theft of any material object. That is the only thing that people generally categorize as stealing, right? Physical theft. You went into the bank and robbed the bank, or whatever it may be, right? You went and took something which was somebody else's. You stole it. So that is the general agreement that people understand that as being theft. But the second one, that you didn't do it physically, but you thought about it, that is psychic theft, right? And then if you got the opportunity, it means we are mind predominant beings, so we always have to think about something before we do the action, right? So if we had the thought, then we are going to do it. And this third one is depriving others of what is due to them, right? So supposing you're employing somebody, right, and the person, for his whatever work that he has done, let's say that he is supposed to get $100, right? But you think that, oh, let me underpay him. Why should I pay him $100? I will pay him $50. So that is also a theft. You're not giving what that person is entitled to, right? You own a company and you have 100 employees, and you intentionally, you got the opportunity because you know that they can, that they cannot get work elsewhere easily, right? They're going to be here only. So you're taking advantage of the situation. So you're not paying them as much as you should, right? You know that what their labor is valued at, but you're able to pressure them because you have the upper hand. You're their boss, right? You're their malik, you're the owner of the company, so you could manage to do that, and you're doing it. So according to the laws of most of the country, you're not going to go to the jail for that, right? If you don't pay them what is due to them. But this is also stealing. According to the yogic morality, spiritual morality, if you do not pay them what is due to them, what is obviously due to them, then that is also stealing, right? People do not understand this. So if you pay them less than what you should pay, so for instance, if somebody is employing a maid at the house, right, in India it's so common, if you're not paying what is due to them, right, if you're saying, okay, let me pay less to them, right, that is also depriving others of what is due to them, and it's also a type of stealing, right? If you loaned, if somebody loaned you money and you didn't pay it back, right, so that is also stealing, right? So anything which is due to somebody physically for whatever reason, and you do not give it to them, that is also stealing. What you're supposed to pay the employee, you do not pay, that is stealing, right? So these are all different examples over here. Okay, the fourth point, Subrajyoti Bhagini.
Yes, Bhagini. Depriving others of their mentally, if you don't actually deprive anybody of what is justifiably their due, but you plan in your mind to do so, that also amounts to theft. Should I start reading next also?
Yeah, if you just finish this and then we can start the next.
Okay. Depriving others of their due mentally. Bhagini, what does it mean? Depriving others of
So
their.
let's say that there's an employee who is working, and you're supposed to pay him $100.
Okay, due.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're
due means
supposed to pay him 100.
amount of
Yeah,
money.
it can be anything, money or whatever,
Okay.
any object or whatever. You're supposed to give it to him, and in your mind you're thinking, I do not want to give. Eventually, maybe you give it to them, but in your mind you thought that I don't want to give it to him.
Okay.
What belongs
so
to him.
We think, yes. If we think like that, if we are giving but we think I don't want to give, or I shouldn't give, or I should keep, then also it's theft. If
Yeah,
you don't actually.
You plan it in your mind. First you plan it in your mind, oh, I don't want to give, I don't want to give. You're thinking like that, and then eventually you give it to them, but still you planned in your mind. So that is also, you're depriving others of their due mentally.
Yes.
So you're planning like this today, and eventually one day you might do it. Physically also you might do it. You may not give them what is due to them.
Right, Bhagini. If you do not actually deprive anybody of what is justifiably their due, we are not, in this case, they are not depriving, but they are planning to do that thing in their mind. That also is a theft, because as you said that eventually they will do it. So this is also theft.
Yeah. So when we explain all of these points, we should always come up with examples, right? We have to give examples and justify. That is why, even though the paragraph looks very small, right, here examples are not given. So we have to provide examples and explain the situation, right? So like, for instance, an employer, he made a lot of money, right?
Yes.
And the employees contributed to the employer's success, and the employer has to give bonus to them, right, to all the employees. He thinks, why should I give the bonus? I don't want to give the bonus. And then the employees all, force him, say, you have to give bonus, otherwise we're not going to work. Then he is forced and he gives the bonus. Actually, he gives the bonus, but he did not want to give the bonus, right? So just like the point number 2, where the psychic question, that you're not physically stealing, but you're thinking of stealing, like that, you're physically not depriving somebody, but you're thinking of depriving somebody. This is a psychic question, right? So the employers not giving bonus is a very good example there, right? Not paying to their workers, right? Thinking that I don't want to pay the bonus to them, right? The thought. So if they are thinking today, then eventually they might do it, right? By having such thoughts, you are actually degrading your mind. You're harming yourself ultimately, right? So by we create sanskaras not only by action but also our mental thought, right? By the mental thought also we are creating samskaras. So if you're having this negative thought that I don't want to give what belongs to others, then you're doing a papa karma, right? You're creating a samskara, right? So here essentially in these 4 types of stealing, what we are saying is we should not do it physically, and we should also not think physically. We should also not think mentally, right? So that is what is asteya. This is very, very superior description of what asteya is, not the common understanding that we have in the world, right? You go and take something physically, that is what is theft. They are thinking, because that is what you get punished for by the law. But here it is beyond what the local laws may say, right? Here what we are saying is at a very, very deep level, that we should not have the tendency to do wrong things. That is, there should be no mental tendency. That should be eliminated, right? Okay, Shubhrajyoti, let me take the next one.
Bhagini. Some explanation
Okay,
Yes,
take it. Take it.
some explanation.
Once again,
Wanted
Subrajyoti Bagni, you wanted to read this paragraph, right? Are you there?
Yes, I am there.
You want to read?
Yes, I can read if
Yeah,
Pushpita
you
Bhagini
take
wants
this
to read.
paragraph and no, you read and Bagni will take the next paragraph.
Okay. Some explanation here is necessary regarding the third and fourth type of theft referred to above. You may have seen that many educated people travel by train without purchasing proper tickets. They do not directly steal money from the railway administration, but they deprive the railway administration of its due. A little thought will reveal that there is a sort of barter relationship of passengers and the railway administration, and therefore ticketless travel amounts to theft of the type referred to under 3 and 4 above. Those who travel by train have obtained the facility from the railway administration. By purchasing tickets, they pay for that facility in full, and consequently, the railway administration cannot be held in high esteem for rendering a social service. When the railway is not rendering free services, not to pay one's travelling fare is a theft. So, one example is given here, and we can see that so many people are educated, but still they travel without purchasing any ticket or proper ticket. They are not stealing directly money, but they are depriving the railway administration of its due. One thought a little thought will reveal that there is a sort of barter relationship of the passenger and railway administration. Bhagini, what is this barter relationship?
Barter relationship is give and take. You give money and they give you the tickets. They give you the right to travel in a train.
Okay. So if we don't buy or purchase ticket, then it will be theft under the paragraph we have read 3 or 4. So traveling by train is like a facility taking from the railway administration. So if we are taking any facility, then we have to pay in full, and we don't have to think like railway administration is a social service. If railway is not a free service or social service, then if someone is not paying, then it also a theft.
Yeah. So nicely said, Bhagini. This point is related to 3 and 4. Okay. So the point is asteya means non-stealing. Steya means stealing, right? So if somebody is traveling without purchasing a ticket, right, then they're using the service without paying for it, right? What was due to somebody is not given. So that is also stealing, right? So railway, a lot of the businesses say that we are in the business of serving. Here we are rendering the service, right? But it is not actually rendering the service. Railway is not rendering a service. They are doing a business transaction. They are giving you the ticket to travel, and they are giving you the right to travel, and in return you may pay them the money. They are not doing a service, right? It is not that they are giving you something and not taking anything in return. So this is a business transaction. Government is running a business here through the railways, taking money in exchange for providing a railway travel. So one is obligated to pay for the ticket, and not to pay for the ticket is actually stealing. Okay, now let's go to the next paragraph. Pushpalata Bhagini, please take.
Consider for a moment what type of person commits such a theft for a few rupees only. Often people of the type indulge in all type of tail talk, tall talk, freely criticize the leaders and accuse them of corruption and nepotism. If their shortcoming is pointed out, they plead. It is difficult to live in the world with such strict morality. Those who run the railway administration in such a manner deserve it. This type of theft is justified. Missionaries or as ascetics who convey a divine message, or political leaders with the noble purpose of doing good to the country, are seen to be often indulging in ticketless travel. This is a daily occurrence, bribing government employees to evade income and other taxes, or demanding traveling allowance for a higher class when they actually travel in a lower class. These are all nothing but cheating. It is not only theft, but it is also pettiness. So a person commits such a theft only for a few rupees only. Other people of the type indulge in all types of talks, like criticizing leaders, accuse them of their qualities, of their bad quality, of their qualities. But if their shortcomings are uh, exposed, they simply say that we cannot live with a strict morality in the society. So those who run the railway administration in such a manner deserve it, they say. And this type of theft is justified, they just say. So now some political leaders, missionaries, or ascetics who travel for a purpose, for good purpose, are allowed to travel free. That is, they do some noble country, and that is a service. But mostly people just like that who are doing ticketless travels, or it's called threat. Similarly, bribing the government for less taxes or less income, to evade income, and also demanding traveling allowance belonging to a higher class when we are supposed to travel only in the lower class, is also a sort of theft. It is also called pettiness. That's what is said in this paragraph.
Nicely said, Bhagini. Yeah, so that is the idea over here. So essentially people basically do all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify their wrong actions. So this is the point over here. They try to justify themselves in order to feel comfortable. They will never like to say that they are committing theft, because the word theft is a very negative word, and that they don't like to associate themselves with this type, right? So they try to say different things to justify themselves. They say that, it is difficult to live in this world with such strict morality, or they say that, oh, the railways, they're not giving us good service, so they deserve it, right? They're giving us a very bad service, and so why should I pay for it? So they give all kinds of justifications, and they don't want to call it as theft. They may not use the word theft. They may say this type of activity is totally justified because they are not doing a good job anyway, right? So these are all things that they try to do to justify their actions, to normalize it, to make it appear as if it is normal, right? So there is nothing high minded about it. If somebody wants to consider themselves moral, right, that they are working for the benefit of the common people, they are only taking from the rich, right? So they may justify giving all these different kinds of excuses, right? So uh, if somebody went to the store and stole some expensive equipment from the store, thinking that I'm not harming anybody, right? These people are all cheaters, right? The people who own those companies and the people who own those stores, they are cheating the public, charging too much. So there's nothing wrong going on here, right? But you're not solving the problem either, right? It's true that rich people of the world are exploiting the poor people. That is true. They do exploit the poor people. But you're not solving that problem by stealing that item from the store. So it is pure selfishness, and it cannot be justified. Somebody has to be honest about it with themselves, that they're not solving the problem. They're not addressing the problem of exploitation. They're just using that to justify their own negative activity. It must never be done,
धन्यवादः नमस्कारः भगिनी.
Yeah,
that one shloka of Rama you said
I will send it to you this week. Okay, I'll send it to you.
okay. धन्यवादः.
Namaskar.